Some prototypes of the Subaru BRZ have been spotted recently, but this is yesterday. This is from Orange County, California, Subifest, where they actually set some records for the most number of Subarus in one location, I think. Anyway, Subaru had a tent there, and a few people were able to grab some photographs of the upcoming BRZ. Now, we don't have a lot of tech details, but I'm going to get into what I think those are going to be in a minute. And I'm also going to show you we're going to enhance this photo through Photoshop, so see if we can get a little bit better look at this new 2022 BRZ. So I saw this in a Facebook group, and I've actually got a few more pictures than this one that is up here from Subaru Dwayne. Let me make this full screen and we'll talk about it. Thank you, Subaru Dwayne, for getting these photographs behind the curtain, so to speak. And let's take a look at this. So it looks to be very, very similar, of course, to the current generation. And I'm going to tell you a bit later on, this is actually based on the exact same chassis that we have now. They are doing some revisions to it. This is definitely not going to be on the Toyota TNGA architecture. And currently it is built in the Subaru plant. And this is a pretty low volume car. The production numbers have been pretty low over the last couple of years, and it doesn't make a lot of sense for Toyota and Subaru to basically take the whole production line, which is currently at Subaru, and move it over to the Toyota plant to put it on the new architecture there. It makes a lot more sense for basically Subaru to continue building these twins together. I've put the 2020 BRZ on top. This is right off of the Subaru website, and then I've got the new one down below. I've opened it up in Photoshop. I've done a little bit of work just to make it look a little bit more clear. So let's look at the difference in styling cues starting at the back. So we've got the tail lights over here. So the old one, we have this sort of round part, and then it sort of squares off and goes into the center section. On the new one, the tail lights are much more sharp, and you can see that they come to a point above the wheel arch, or sort of in the rear fender there. So quite sharp. Overall, it's a lot more smooth looking, I would say. Then we have this pronounced lip over here too on the new one, and on the rear one we just have a little wing back here, but no real lip. So it kind of comes up a little bit higher. It gives a little bit of I want to say a bit of a Genesis kind of look, perhaps. There's a little bit more molding and texture on the old one in the bumper, and in the new one it's a little bit hard to say, but it looks a little bit more smoothed out to me. Then moving forward, we have this character line, the wheel arch over here, which is quite pronounced coming out from the roof. It comes out quite a bit. Over here in the new one, it's a little bit difficult to say if it's really there. Again, we've got a lot of camo on the car too. The wheels look to be pretty similar, although it's a little bit difficult to say. Looking at the overall window cut line, it's pretty similar here at the back. In the old one, it sort of comes up to a point. In the new one, it looks like a little bit of a Hofmeister kink, kind of a BMW type style thing with a little kink over here. The cut of the door line on the old one and the new one is pretty similar. It looks like might be a little bit more rounded on the new one over here. Again, the overall glass is very, very similar. On the old one, we have this lower piece here. It sort of flows into the rear fender a little bit. Hard to say if we have this the same kind of styling over here. Again, we have a lot of camo covering it up. I think it's looking a little bit more muted. One of the most obvious things, of course, in the old one in the front, we have this vent style thing in the front fender, the top of the fender over here. Here we don't have it in the new one, but we do have what looks to be sort of I guess a fake vent down here, right behind the rear, behind the front wheel. And then the overall line of the hood seems to slope down at a pretty similar angle too. So overall looks very, very similar. This, of course, is off the Subaru Instagram, and I'm looking at this vent right here ahead of the front wheel. I don't know if it's fake or it's real. It's a little bit difficult to say. Let me know down below if you think it's real or it's fake. We do have a bit of intel here, and that Subaru is telling us that the world premiere is coming this fall. So what does this fall really mean? Well, we know that winter starts on December 31st, so we've got until December 20th for it still technically to be fall. I was chatting, I was actually on Facebook yesterday, and somebody said they heard it was going to be October 9th or 10th. I think that's a little bit early because this was just on Sunday at Subifest, so I don't see them releasing this to the public in just a couple of days from now. I think it's going to be a little bit later. My guess is as good as yours, of course. There's been a number of spy photos of the car, so let's talk about what we're actually going to see mechanically and what we are expecting. So as I said before, I do not believe this is going to be on the Toyota TNGA platform. I think this is going to be a continuation of the platform that we already know and love, hopefully. It's going to be the same formula. We're talking about relatively lightweight. We're talking about relatively low horsepower, probably in the range of 220 horsepower or less. Right now it's at 205. I think we're going to see a torque bump to around 170, 180, something like that. And that's a big increase from the 155 that we're at right now, and 156, I think. And also, I think it's going to be fairly inexpensive as well. They're not going to change the price point too much right now. The base vehicle comes in at less than $30,000. I think we're going to see probably about the same thing, although I might expect an increase of maybe $1,500 or so. That's pretty typical when you see a new car introduced. So we're looking at the FA24 engine. That is, of course, from Subaru. So I put it in Photoshop. Let's change the color of the car a little bit to see if we can see the outline a little bit better. So there we have it in sort of a green kind of color. Let's move it over. We got some really bright green right now, and kind of gold. So there you can kind of see the outline a little bit better of the vehicle. Again, it's being shot through this curtain, the semi-translucent curtain, and then it's covered with blue wrap as well. Let's move it all the way back over here. Purple, okay. It's kind of a reddish tone there. I think that gives you a pretty good idea. Let me bump up the saturation a little bit. So there you go. That's kind of what it looks like. It looks like, to me, a refined version of the existing model. We haven't heard anything from Toyota yet, but we know, of course, that these are twins. They're going to be similarly priced. I understand that the styling is going to be differentiated a little bit more this time than in the past in the current model. So that should be kind of a nice thing to see too. I'm expecting, although we haven't seen any spy shots yet, I'm expecting that the Toyota side is going to be under the GR brand. It's probably going to be called the GR86, and I'm expecting to have a little bit of cues from the Supra. That's just my personal opinion. I think that's sort of what Toyota is likely to do. And of course, Toyota is pretty conservative with styling, and they always have been on this vehicle too. I've never been a huge fan of the styling. Quite personally, that's just me. I am in Toronto right now. I've moved from LA. I'm going to be here for a couple of months. I'm taking care of a sick relative. If there's something you want me to cover, please let me know. My name is Eric, and I will see you in the next video.